What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counter Punch Boxing News, and I'm going to do a little, fight study with the recently fought fight between Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev. Just to break down a few things about any myths or complaints about this fight. The equation of this fight was that these were the effective things. For Kovalev, his jab and his right hand. Those, in his distance. So his jab, his right hand is his distance. Ward was his left hook and his jab and his speed. Okay. Well, a lot of people complained about Kovalev, putting Ward in the headlock. And a lot of, it was, someone counted it was over 200 clinches. Well, it was a 12-round fight. So, it's an hour-long fight. So what do? Kovalev is not an inside fighter. That wasn't his game plan. So, yeah, whenever Ward came in and got close enough, okay, he tied him up. He put him in the arm. He put him in the headlock. He did that because he didn't want to fight on the inside. That wasn't his game plan. But furthermore, when the jab that caught Ward, that staggered him in the first round, when it caught Ward, Ward knew not to come straight in. He had to pivot in. He had to come in on an angle. He had to use his jab. He pawed in with his jab, come up under Kovalev's jab, because that jab hurt him in the first round. It staggered him. It buckled him. So he knew then, I can't come in straight. I would have to come in under the jab. So when he came in under the jab, it's a reflex, from Kovalev was to put him in the headlock. He had to put him in the headlock, because he slipped his jab. He came up under his jab, and he didn't come straight in. So, if you come up under his jab, all this is exposed. So when he comes in, headlock. That's a reflex. And I don't see what the big deal is. It's not like Ward did not hold himself. Ward held to survive the knockdown, which was in round 2 from the straight right hand, the other weapon that Kovalev possessed. He was devastated. He was really shocked by that power, and then plus Ward, meaning he slipped the jab and he wanted to counter off the jab. But the problem is he was doing that on the right side. So since he slipped the jab on the right side, that's why he got caught, obviously, with the right hand, because the right hand was coming. Kovalev just threw a 1-2, and then you notice Kovalev's punch output was it was everything was done off the jab, either off the jab or he started with the right, and he did that for counter when he had the distance to land the right hand, and he landed it a few times in the first part of that fight. However, in the second part of the fight, that right hand could not be found by Kovalev. Ward had made the proper adjustments at that time. And he started landing his own jab, an occasional left hook, and some body shots on the inside. Kovalev was looking for that right. He did land that left. That left did land. They traded jabs all night long. So it's not like Kovalev stopped landing punches in the second half of that fight. That fight was basically a display of two superior boxers. That's what it was. A lot of people want to get mad about it. I look at the fight and I compared a lot of, it's a combination of a couple fights to me. I remember a heavyweight fight, with David Tua and Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, of course, was a lot taller than David Tua. David Tua is like 5'9", maybe 5'10". I don't even give him that, But Lennox Lewis is like 6'4", Of course, he had the reach advantage. It'd actually be kind of weird if he didn't. But, Tua's game plan is to get in the inside. Rip to the body, land that left hook his left hook that everyone he was famous for at the time. So, and when but he was getting peppered with the jab. So his thing is to come up under the jab and try to work to the body, which he couldn't execute his game plan because, for one, he was too slow. You have to move with speed. And that's another thing about Ward you have to commend Ward on. He did it. He pivoted his way in, to under the jab. And Kovalev's not a slow fighter. Make no mistake about it. So I was impressed with Ward's speed, to come up under that jab. But when he did that, Kovalev nullified it by holding. He didn't want to fight inside. A lot of fighters didn't want to fight inside. Look at the Manny Pacquiao Mayweather fight. Mayweather held Manny Pacquiao when he got on the inside. He did that for a reason. He did not want an inside fight because he could get caught with a right hook, which is a powerful Pacquiao punch, or that left uppercut. So either way, they fought the simplest fight. Keep it simple. And like Lara, Lara's not an inside fighter. A lot of Cubans are not an inside fighter anyway. They're not inside fighters. And they just went off the points, and it was kind of similar to the Lara Canelo fight in some spots, but this fight was more intriguing. They engaged each other more. Just Kovalev couldn't land that right anymore, and it's a good thing that Ward did. And it just shows the experience of Ward. If Kovalev could land that right, Ward wouldn't be in there. I wouldn't give him past 7-8 rounds. I would see him out, or they would have to stop it because Kovalev's right. And if you noticed, he didn't catch Ward flush. He caught him. Caught him with a short right. He didn't catch him with one of his classic right hands with the full extent of power on it. Kovalev has long arms. If you look at, he has some long arms. But his power is at the end of his punches. So he didn't catch Ward with really a good, he caught him with a decent right hand, but it wasn't the best. And it really wasn't flush because if you could tell, it kind of landed like this. He hit him with the force of the punch dropped Ward. Now just imagine if it was if Ward was trying to counter back, which Ward probably he wouldn't have done. He wouldn't have, been in that distance, in that range to get caught with that full extent power. You know what I mean? And that just shows that these two guys, this was a chess match. And I feel that a rematch is definitely needed. No other fighter should go off and do other things. The Trinidad De La Hoya needed a rematch. The De La Hoya Mayweather needed a rematch. And this fight needs a rematch. The Lara Canelo fight, of course, that needs a rematch. But these two guys have unfinished business. It should have been either a draw, because I think Kovalev did enough to win. But I do feel that Andre Ward was coming back, and he was inching his way back into the fight. But, at the beginning, after the second round, he had to survive. So what you got to ask yourself, what other fighter survived Kovalev after Kovalev done that to him? After that first knockdown, everything else with normal fighters is going downhill. Downhill. They're going down again and again until the ref comes in or their corner stops the fight. So, you got to give Ward credit for surviving and then getting in there and executing or doing the best to execute his game plan, which in spots that he done. So these guys, the fight will be the same, but I think it'll be a little bit more intense because it'll be like round 13, because they know they know what they're dealing with. Ward knows I'm dealing with power. I'm dealing with a power jab and some heavy hands. And I have to worry about his speed also. Because make no mistake about it, Ward has never been in there with a fighter like Kovalev. But Kovalev has never been in there with a fighter like Ward. He's never been in there with that type fighter. I mean, and they both, it was a fight. They both clinched. They both got physical. It was a physical fight. It was a fight for the dominance of the game plan that they were trying to execute. And that's what it was. I mean, you had clinches, you had holds, and it was almost like looking at I saw little bits of Bernard Hopkins, a young Bernard Hopkins in there. He got in and he picked his shots. These guys went blow for blow. You had a lot of hitting behind the head because when the clinches did start, I mean that was the only spot that you could punch. So, but this fight is definitely needed for a rematch, and I look forward of the March showdown between these guys. Also, the Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia. So hopefully we'll have two great fights in that particular time next year in 2017. So until then, guys, you've been counterpunched. Peace.